Hey guys, thanks for joining us here on the very first live stream for the Salty Ginger Talk podcast. Really glad that you're able to join us tonight. It's our first live stream, and we're excited to engage with our audience live and take questions, respond to comments, and talk about topics that you guys think are important, that you're looking for advice or help on, and just generally excited to be able to have a platform on which we can engage with our audience on. So, really excited to be here. My name is Joe Canfield. I'm the host and founder of Salty Ginger Talk. Our producer is James Brian Bandio. He handles all of the technical stuff for our podcast. He does all the editing for all of our episodes and arranges all of our social media posts, our marketing, our promotion. So he plays a big part of the podcast. So tonight we are going to talk about um, mindset, and that's one of the main things that we talk about on the Salty Ginger podcast. So, mindset is so important because it determines the trajectory of your life. So, on our podcast, we'll do 5 episodes a week. We do interviews with people who talk about the experiences that they've had in life, most notably the difficult experiences that they've had in life, what they've learned from those, and they give our listeners real world tips that they've taken from the difficult things that they've overcome in their lives so that they can share that wealth and hopefully help other people who are facing similar circumstances or similar issues get to a better spot. And so we also will do a couple different episodes or a couple other episodes a week that cover a specific topic. Maybe it's how to deal with difficult people. Maybe it's how to stop procrastinating. Maybe it's how to uh, pursue the things in life that are important to you. So, our whole podcast is about trying to get people to live a meaningful and purposeful life. And the way we think about that, it's not our place to tell you what has meaning and what has purpose. It's your job to determine what has meaning and what has purpose to you. Where we see people, I think, go wrong and or face challenges on this is they will do what the people around them tell them they think they should do. They will do what they think society wants them to do. They won't pursue the things that are important to them, and it leads them to a place where they're unfulfilled, they're unhappy, they are sorry guys, I just had a text come in here. Um okay, sorry about that, guys. We just got a text that said one of our accounts was suspended. I want to make sure it wasn't YouTube, so I wasn't sitting here talking to myself and nobody else was listening. But it's Google Ads Manager. So if you've ever had Google Ads, it's kind of funky the way they do things. We do a Google ad campaign for each of our episodes. So one of the things about our episodes is we have real talk, and so we want people to come on and share the experiences that they've had. Um, uh, Real world. So they'll use words or terms that the algorithm does not like much. And they'll talk about circumstances that the algorithm does not like much. We're not going to throttle back how people talk about difficult experiences that they've had simply to get views or likes because of the algorithm. I think it's one of the things I disagree with YouTube on is if someone's gone through something physical attack or something similar, you should be able to talk about those experiences and what you learned from those experiences and how you got over those experiences, so that other people who are going through those things can learn from those experiences. So we're never going to throttle that. We're never going to stop people from sharing those experiences in their own words as they lived them and what they learned from them. So, anyhow, the as you know, Google owns YouTube, and so similar things happen on Google Ads Manager, and we just got a text that we're gonna have to figure something out with them on their account. So it is what it is. But for now, we're here talking to you on this live stream. So we want to talk about mindset. And I think the most important thing to think about in terms of mindset is the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And we're actually putting together a class that we're going to make available for purchase in the coming weeks on exactly this: how to move from a fixed mindset. And this isn't an all or nothing thing. You're not all fixed or all um, growth, but in different aspects of your life, sometimes you'll take a fixed mindset approach and sometimes you'll take a growth mindset approach. So, what do we mean by that when we use those terms, fixed mindset and growth mindset? A fixed mindset is limiting. It says, I was born with a specific set of circumstances, with a specific set of capabilities, and there's really nothing I can do to change my life and make things different because that's just the way things are. Versus a growth mindset where people say, I can't currently do X, or I'm not currently good at Y, but I'm going to keep working at those things and I'm going to get better at them because I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to learn from the efforts that I put in and I'm going to apply those learnings as I try those things again. And we're going to get better at those things. For what it's worth, it's a growth mindset that allowed you to learn to walk, to learn to talk, to learn to write, to learn to read, to learn to drive, to learn all of the things you do at your job, to learn how to manage relationships, all of the things that you've learned in life. You were not born with those skills. Those are skills that you learned through your life, and your mindset and how you approach those things is terribly important. So Henry Ford has a famous quote that says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. And that is 100% accurate. So if you decide before you try something or start something that you're going to stick to it and you're going to see it through to the end until you accomplish that goal or task or objective, then you will. Conversely, if you decide before you start something, there's no way I'm going to get this done. I'm not good at this. I don't know how to do this. This is going to be a failure. Then you're right. You're going to fail because you've got the wrong mindset going into it. And it's not going to cut it. It's just not going to work. So I think it's one of the reasons we see the challenges, some of the challenges that we see in society today. So we've got a population where depression and anxiety and unhappiness and unfulfillment is a lot higher now than it has been in the past. And a lot of that is from people thinking that they're in a set of circumstances that they don't have any control over when nothing could be further from the truth. Now, do you have control over everything? Of course you don't. You don't have control over the government or the economy or what happens throughout the world. But you do have control over how you think about it, over how you interact with other people around it, and how you react to it personally. And that's what someone with a growth mindset will do. They will take the approach that, hey, I might not know a lot about this particular subject, but I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to talk to people that have different views than I have on this subject. I'm just going to listen to them. I'm not going to judge whether I think they're right or whether I think they're wrong. I'm just going to listen and absorb the information. And then I am going to think critically about the information that I've gathered. I'm going to come to my own conclusions. I'm going to come to my own decisions. And I'm not going to allow other people to dictate how I think about things. And I think that's where a lot of folks go wrong these days is they do fall into groupthink. They do wind up following, kind of blindly following other people. And that's not a good place to be. You want to be a critical thinker. You want to think about things on your own. Now, you want to gather as much information as you can to have good thoughts and to be able to make good decisions based on as much information as you have available to you. But if you blindly follow, you're going to wind up in a spot that you didn't pick. It's not going to have meaning to you. It's not going to have purpose to you. You didn't work for that position. You didn't work for that place. And you're going to be unhappy and unfulfilled. And that's something that we see a lot of in today's society. So there's plenty of topics in the world today that are divisive. We intentionally try to stay away from those on our podcast. There's plenty of podcasts out there where people will argue Democrat versus Republican, left versus right, rich versus poor, men versus women. And you think about all the divisive things that exist in our society, it's really, really easy to find people who will take strong opinions or make really kind of inflammatory statements intentionally to try to sow division so that they can get a rise and or views or likes or whatever your particular goal is. We're not interested in that. We want to have meaningful conversations. We want to gather as much information as we can from other people. We want to apply a critical thinking process to that information as we gather it. And we want to come up with our own decisions and we want to think independently on our own. If we wind up in the same spot that a lot of other people wind up, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes the majority is correct and you wind up with the majority because it's a good place to be. Like we should be decent to people, right? We should just treat each other decently. We shouldn't be calling each other names. We shouldn't be celebrating when other people experience defeat or failure or hardship. Like that's just not a good place to be as people. And look, I'm not touchy feely in any way, shape, or form. I'm very left brained. I'm very fact based. I'm very direct. I apologize only when I'm sorry. I don't say I'm sorry for the sake of saying I'm sorry. I don't say I'm sorry to try to make someone else feel better. And I don't expect them to do that with me. However, we can be cordial to each other when we talk about things that we might not see the same way. There's no reason that we have to be disagreeable just to disagree. We can disagree in an agreeable way. And I think that's something that we as a society need to work on and get a lot better at because I don't think we're very good at it right now. So, from a mindset perspective, let's just say that I find myself in a situation where I've got a fixed mindset and I've determined for whatever reason that I'm not good at a particular thing or a particular subject. Let's take quitting smoking, for example. Let's say that I've smoked and I've smoked for 5 years and I've decided, you know what? I've tried quitting multiple times. I'm just going to be a smoker for the rest of my life and that's just how it is. So let's set aside the physical addiction that comes with smoking because that's real. I understand nicotine addiction is real. I chewed tobacco for a long time, so I know exactly what that's like, just a different version of the same thing. But if you say, hey, I haven't figured out a way to do this yet, but I'm not going to stop until I do, you're going to be in a much better spot to eventually stop smoking, which is really, really good for your health, will add years to your life, will make your life much more enjoyable when you're able to quit a habit that's slowly killing you, right? But if we have a fixed mindset, if we determine before we start that we're going to fail, then guess what? We're going to fail. Now, there's a difference between believing you will achieve your goal and just thinking positively and ignoring the difficult things in the world. Admiral James Stockdale, who is famous for several things, one of them being the person who spent the longest amount of time in captivity as a prisoner of war during the Vietnam conflict and also was Ross Perot's vice presidential candidate when Ross Perot ran for president, took votes away from George Bush to help get Bill Clinton elected in 1992. Stockdale was interviewed multiple times after he made it out, and it was over 9 years. He spent over 9 years in a prisoner of war camp where he endured all sorts of different psychological and physical torture, and he made it out. He walked with a limp for the rest of his life because of some of the physical things that happened to him when he was captured. He'd been injured. They didn't provide him medical care. All sorts of terrible things happened to him. And they asked him, who made it out? Who were the people that survived? And he said it actually was not the big, tough, strong, take no prisoners kind of people that made it out. He said they actually lost pretty quick, whether it was through the enemy or through being kind of defeated through their mindset. But interestingly, he said the second group of people that fell pretty quickly were the optimists, the people who said, "Oh, we'll be out by Thanksgiving," and then Thanksgiving came and went, and they were still there. Well, we'll be out by Christmas. Then Christmas came and went, and they were still there. Well, we'll be out by Easter, and then Easter came and went, and they were still there. And he said those people actually lost hope. And you can't be successful if you don't have hope or belief that you will eventually achieve the goal that you're working towards. But he also said you need to be able to keep hope front of mind and in your sights while at the same time confronting the brutal reality of what you're dealing with today, right now. And so that's Stockdale. It's called the Stockdale paradox. I read about it in a book called Good to Great by Jim Collins. If you've never read Good to Great, I highly suggest you read it. The premise is Jim Collins found two companies similarly positioned, and one of those companies kind of saw a huge swing upwards that they sustained for over 15 years. And one of those companies either kept kind of middling along and or faded off into an existence. And he wanted to understand what those companies had that went from good to great. What commonalities did they have? And one of them was the Stockdale principle, the willingness to say, we're going to achieve our goals, we're going to get to where we want to be. But right now, we have these problems and these challenges. And if we don't confront those problems and those challenges, it's going to prevent us from achieving what we tried or want to achieve. And so that's a great example of how mindset can impact you either positively or negatively based on how you approach any particular subject or topic. So I think that's terribly important to keep front of mind. Not easy, right? It's not easy to keep that mindset because life's going to kick us all in the teeth sometimes. That's just how it is. Some people suffer physical abuse when they're kids. Some people suffer sexual abuse throughout their life. Some people suffer job losses. They lose family members. They lose children. They lose terrible things. And the people that wind up going through those things and building a life of meaning and purpose after those events have taken place are the ones that acknowledge how terrible those things are, but still have hope and still have a growth mindset, thinking, I can learn from this. What is the lesson that I'm supposed to take from this? What are the learnings that I'm supposed to get from this that I can apply to future opportunities in my life? And so that's why we focus so much on mindset on our podcast. That's why we do so many episodes talking about mindset on our podcast. That's why we talk about with our guests when they come on and do their interviews. Tell us how you got through it. Tell us what your approach was. Tell us how you thought about it to get to a better spot. Because the mindset is by far the biggest indicator of whether you're going to make it or whether you're not going to make it. There's another book around mindset. It's called Talent is Overrated. I love the book. And essentially, what that book says is that um, you don't need to have talent to be successful in any particular field. You need to have enough talent that you're serviceable in it. But they looked at virtuoso pianists or concert violinists or athletes or business people, whoever excelled in their fields. And what they found was that those people fell in love with and embraced the monotonous, boring, repetitious practice it took to get really, really good at whatever it was that they were pursuing. So the violinists, the concert violinists or the concert pianists, they worked on their craft much, much more than the person who was in the second chair or the people that never made it as violinists or pianists. They literally just worked more in an intelligent way to hone their craft and become experts at whatever they did. Same thing is true in athletics. Same thing is true in business. Same thing can be true said about relationships. So if you want to have a good relationship with someone, you need to be willing to put in the work for that relationship. You need to be willing to care about the other person in that relationship. You need to think about what would make them happy and care about what makes them happy and be willing to do some work or help get them in situations where they can experience those things that do make them happy. So, Talent is Overrated is another great book to read if you want to really understand the concept and the mindset that's necessary to be successful. So, love both those books. I think they're really good in terms of really kind of focusing on how mindset works for people. So, if anyone's got any thoughts, any questions, any topics, you can leave those here right in the comments. I'll see those and we can talk about those live on the live stream and we can respond via the comments section as well. In the chat section, we'll respond to those as well. So, um, shifting back to mindset though, it's just one of those things that has such a control over our lives. And it's something that most people don't spend enough time thinking about and really trying to work on and control to put themselves in the best situation possible to be successful. Um, People ask me a lot, how are you able to bounce back after things don't go the way you want them to? Like you're able to kind of quickly recover and get back in the fight. And that's all mindset. It's truly mindset. You have to be willing to first accept that something didn't go well. I try to stay away when I talk about these things. I try to stay away from the word failure. I'm not always great at it, but failure can really kind of start to take on an identity, meaning I failed at that, so I'm a failure as a person. Nope, those aren't the same thing. They're very different. In this particular instance, you did not accomplish what you wanted or get the outcome that you wanted. I use the word outcome a lot when you think about how the world works. So you take a series of actions, you take actions or a series of actions, and you wind up with an outcome. If you like the outcome that you got from those actions, then just keep taking those actions because it will keep delivering the same outcome. Except for golf. Golf is different. Like you can take the same actions, and for some reason, golf screws with your head. You get different outcomes. I golf a lot, so I can tell you about that. Um, if you don't like the outcomes you got from the set of actions you took, take different actions. Maybe you tweak the actions that you took. Maybe you take completely different actions than the ones that you took. The only thing you know is that when you took the actions that you took, you did not get the outcome that you were looking to deliver. And so you're going to need to learn from that and change the way you approach that particular issue. And the way to do that, again, is through mindset. If you're willing to take radical ownership of the outcomes in your life, even if life is unfair to you, even if people are intentionally bad to you, or intentionally mean to you, or intentionally screw you over, that happens. I'm not discounting that. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying it doesn't suck when it does happen. What I am saying is you have a choice on how you respond to it. You can let it define you, you can let it defeat you, you can let it stop you from moving forward, or you can take radical ownership of it and ask yourself some questions. What should I learn, or what could I learn from this outcome? What's it trying to teach me? What's the lesson for me to take away here so that I can apply that lesson in the future? Could I or should I have seen some of this coming? even though it was out of my control. Could I have anticipated that this happened or was going to happen? Were there signs that I missed? Were there things that I was intentionally ignoring because it ran counter to the way I feel or the way I think about this particular issue? Those are all ways that you can learn from outcomes that you don't like or you didn't want. So, terribly important to apply the growth mindset in those situations. So, um, thinking about how we apply this in our everyday life, you need to develop coping mechanisms that work for you in particular. And we have lots of videos and episodes on our podcast that talk through some of these coping mechanisms and approaches. One of the best coping mechanisms that you can develop is breathing exercises. So,